Hi, and welcome to the Christmas Sale Promo After Effects template customization video. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to replace your images, whether they're photos or videos, how to change your text, and how to replace your logo. And I'll show you how to set up a render when you're done customizing. So let's get started in the render comp. We have a 60-second version set up here, and each scene is roughly 5 seconds long. There's also a 30-second cut and a 15-second cut, and you can find those in the render comps folder. You'll see a 15, a 30, and a 60. So those are already edited for you. Some of the scenes are a little shorter than they are in the other versions, and you can always re-edit or change those, extend the length or shorten the scenes as you see fit. Let's take a look in a 60-second comp, and you'll notice that we are opening with the logo scene with our main title. There are 9 animated scenes, and you can change and rearrange pretty much everything in all of the scenes, and I'll show you how to do that shortly. And at the end, there's a closing scene where you can import your logo and change the text, and you can also change these social media icons. There's a slider control. There are 11 icons included with the template, so you can change any of these to whatever you like. So let's get started with the very beginning with the opening logo scene. You can double click to open any of these scene layers in the render comps. If you double click, you can open that up. And in each of these scenes, there's a text and string positions controls panel. And there's actually, and not only can you control the positions, you can also control the size of the logos, of the text, or your images. There are no controls for these different elements like the stars and the gift box. You can just select those layers if you like. Oh, that's the vignette. And you can just manually move them around if you need to. So if you select the text and string positions layer and go to the effect controls panel, you can use the point effect controls to move your elements around on the screen. And let's say you wanted to move the text positions at the same time. You can select the text 01 position effect and then hold down Command or Control and select text 02 position. And now you can scrub on any of those X or Y values, and you can move them together. So you don't have to move one and then the other one separately. You can also adjust the size. You can make that text bigger or smaller, and we can change the logo size as well. And the logo is actually cut out of this texture. So if we go to the project panel, go to the Replace Logo Here folder, open that up, and double click to open the Replace Logo Here composition. There is a text layer that's turned off. If you don't have a logo, you can always just change your text here, and if you double click on any text layer and start typing, it will replace that text. We're going to turn that off because we are going to import a logo. If you go to File, Import, File, select your logo, click Open, and import it. You can drag and drop your logo into this timeline. If you hit S on your keyboard, you can get to the scale parameter or property, and adjust your logo. You can select the layer and move it anywhere in the comp window. And now if we go back to the opening logo scene, you can see your logo has been replaced. If we want to adjust the actual logo size, you can go to the opening logo strings composition, double click to open that up, replace opening tag text here. This is actually where the logo goes. So double click that, and you can go to the frame controls. These are the same controls that are available on all of the image placeholders. So you can change the width and the height. You can select a different frame. There are 6 shapes to choose from. So if you change that number, a different shape will appear. So let's change that logo size. Let's make it a little bigger. Now when I go back to this shape, there we go. You can use this, it says tag color. It's actually the hue, saturation, and lightness effect. And you can use this to change the color of that background if you like. And we're going to reposition this. We're going to move it up. That logo position, center it. If we go back to our opening logo scene, you'll see that our logo has been replaced. So let's change the text in this opening scene. If you go to the project panel, go to the Replace Text Here folder, twirl that open, and go to the opening scene and double click to open the Replace Opening Scene Text 01 composition. So you'll notice that there's a texture on this text layer, and we're doing that with an alpha matte. And if you select that texture layer, go to the Effects Controls panel, you'll see the color balance effect here, and you can change the color here. So you wouldn't go to the character panel and change the font or change the font color because it's using the texture. So that's where you would change the color for the text if you like. And if you don't want it to have a texture, you can always just turn this text layer on and turn the texture off. And then you can use the character panel to change the text, and it'll just be a flat, solid color. It won't be the texture. There's also a warp effect applied to an adjustment layer, and you'll see that in the Effects Controls panel. You can always just turn that off. So to change that text, you'll double click on the text layer. There we go. And if you want to change that font, you do select the text layer and go to the character panel, and you can change your font in this drop-down menu. So let's go back to the opening logo scene, and you can see that our text has been updated. And if you solo that layer and take a look at these strings, you can see that because we changed the size of our text, the strings they're not connected. So you can adjust that by going to the text and string positions layer, and in the Effect Controls panel, you can change those string positions. So you can move that over, move this one maybe up a little and over. So you can reconnect those strings, and you can see it still looks like it's attached and animated. And we soloed that layer so we can actually see the strings, because sometimes they're a little tough to see, and you might not realize that they're not connected. So that's a good tip, to just solo that layer so you can see what's going on there. And to change the other text, you just go back to the project panel, replace opening scene text 02, double click that. So our text is changed. We can go back to the opening logo scene, and that text was about the same size as the previous one if you solo that. So you can see the string kind of hanging it down on the left side. So we're going to move that up. And there you go. You can change the background color by selecting the last layer in all of the scenes. It's going to be a shape layer, and it has a gradient. So click on this fill effect. This is a shape layer, so the fill effects will be at the top in your top tools menu. Select that and click on any of these color stops to change the colors of the gradient. So you can make it as crazy as you want to. So we're going to cancel that and just leave that there. Now let's go to scene 1, and I'll show you how to replace an image and how to customize the tags that are included with each scene. Let's go back to the project panel and look for the Replace Images Here folder, and double click to open the Replace Image 01 composition. And you'll see there are already a bunch of layers in here, and I'll explain. This text layer is controlled. You can control the visibility in the render comp. So if you select the Turn on Photo Numbers layer and go to the Effect Controls panel, you'll see a checkbox. And if you uncheck this checkbox, the numbers disappear. And if you turn that back on, it's just so you can, when you're editing and you need to replace an image, you can see which image placeholder you need to look at. So these are all numbered, and you do want to turn this off before you render. So just want to point that out. We go back to the replace image composition. There's a guide layer here telling you to place a photo at the bottom of the layer stack. There's a frame controls layer, and of course you go to the effect controls panel. You can see the same controls that we saw on the logo, where you can change, and actually this one has a frame thickness. You can increase that thickness if you want to. You can move the positioning. If you select shape number 6, which is a rectangle, and that is huge, we're going to make that small. You can adjust the rounded corners. So you can make that really round or just keep it square. If we go to File, Import File, select the image you want to use, click Open, and then drag that file into your timeline. If we hit S on the keyboard, you can scale that down using the scale property. For that layer, you can select the layer or the photo and just manually adjust it in the comp window. If we go back to scene 1, you'll see that our image has been updated. And let's go ahead and open scene 1. And I'll show you how you can still change things around in here. If you select the text and string positions, go to the image position effect control, and you can move that however you like. You can even make that bigger. You'll have to make that adjustment for the position. So there's still a lot of adjustments you can make. You can change the text positions. Whoops. There we go. And move those at the same time. So you still have a lot of options here. You don't have to just settle for how the project came, what you saw in the preview. You can always move things around as you like. So let's change the sail tag. In the timeline, you can select the sail tag strings 01 comp, double click to open that up, and that is a pre-comp. And then double click to open the composition in here that says replace sail tag 01. And you can get to this by going to the project panel. This is a easier way probably. Go to the replace text here folder, and then look for the replace sail tags folder, and you can find those pre-comps in here as well. These tags also have a texture, and if you don't like that texture, you can always just turn it off and turn on the tag. And this is a shape layer, so we'll use the fill controls, the fill options in the tools panel, and you can change the color here, but we'll leave that texture on. And in the texture layers, there's a color balance effect, and you can still use this to change the color of that texture. If we want to change the text, we'll just double click on that text layer, and we can change that however you like. You can always move the text around in the comp viewer, and change the font with the character panel, and change the size in the character panel as well. If we go back to scene 1, our tag has been updated, and you can also change the text. Replace text here folder, scene 01 folder, and you can make that adjustment. My goodness. Okay. We go back to scene 1. Our text has been updated, and we've customized this scene. Now you can do all the things I just showed you in every single scene. So you can rearrange, you can turn layers off, you can turn them back on, can pretty much do whatever you like. And quickly, if you're not familiar with editing layers in After Effects, I can show you just a few tips here. If you select a layer and you hover your cursor over the front or the beginning of that layer, you'll see that it changes to these like two arrows pointing in opposite directions. If you click there and drag, you can shorten that layer So that way it starts, when you're seeing it, it starts, it's kind of cut off. So you can always adjust the timing of that layer. If you want this to move a little faster, you can right click on a layer, go to time, and time stretch. And you can stretch this, you can extend it. If you do a stretch factor of 150, it extends the duration to 7 seconds. If you wanted to slow the animation down. If you just want to extend the time that it's just on screen, you would hover over the end of that layer, and you'll see we have these two arrows pointing in either direction, and then just drag to the right. And then you'll want to move the next couple of layers over. So now it's going to be on screen longer. If that's what you needed, that's how you do it. So let's take a look at the closing scene at the very, very end. As you can see, we've already put our logo in the project. We've already imported and customized that placeholder, so it's already in there for the closing logo scene. You can also change the text and this text banner. So let's double click to open that up. You'll want to go to the project panel, go to the Replace Text Here folder, go to the Closing Scene folder, and you can double click to open any of those compositions. Double click text layer, change the text, change the texture color, go back to the project panel, and there's one text placeholder in here, so we'll double click and change the text, go back to the closing scene, and again you want to double check those strings to make sure that they are attached, and you'll see that for that text layer it isn't, so you'll go to the text and string positions effects controls panel and adjust those string positions there, and whoops, wrong one, there. And if we go to the text and string positions effect controls, if you look down here, you can see there's different controls for the social media strings. If you don't want these shown, you can turn those layers off in the timeline, and they're labeled social media string 1, 2, 3, 4, and just click these eyeballs and you can turn those off. If you want, we can turn them back on. Go back to our effect controls. You can increase the size if you want it to be a little bigger. You can move the positions for each string wherever you like. And then to change the icons for each string, there's a slider control. And number 1 is the Snapchat icon. And there are 11, I believe. Yeah, there's 11 different icons for different social media accounts. So you can choose whichever one you like. So with your render comp open and selected, you'll see this little blue line around it. Go to composition, add to render queue. If you click on lossless, you'll want to change this output. You'll pretty much always want to change that output. Make sure that the format is QuickTime. This is how I render. If you have other ways of rendering in different formats you need to use, then obviously you need to use those. But this is how I render a video to use on the web, because that's really where most of my videos are shown for the previews. So QuickTime, click on Format Options. I like to use H.264. You can leave it at 100, but I feel like 80 is fine too, and it gives you a smaller file size, just barely though. Click OK. Audio output is auto. Click OK. Oh, in case you're wondering, if you go to the render comp and you want to add music here, you will import your music just like any other file. So select your music, click open, and then drag that file into the render comp, the one that you're going to render. If you hit L on your keyboard, that will bring up your audio levels, and you can keyframe those so you can fade out the audio if you like. Back to the render queue. Go to the output 2 and click on that text, and then you'll want to change or output that video file somewhere where you can find it, and then you will click render. That's about it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, marissa@fluxvfx.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, and good luck.